Hey everyone, this is Motzie. As some of you may know, I'm not only working on this wonderful horror audio drama, Hainay, but I'm also working on a comic book Kickstarter, an anthology of different works by different Filipino artists. It's called the Pinoy Monster Lover Anthology After Dark, and it's our very first spicy anthology featuring different love stories between Filipino monsters and human protagonists. The Kickstarter ends on August 13, and we're not even halfway funded, so please go check it out if you can. The goal for this particular Kickstarter is to get a lot of Filipino artists paid and to get a lot of people some wonderful Filipino monster romance. It is, however, 18+, so please keep that in mind. We've got Sigbin Bakers, we've got Tikbalang Kings, and we've got Cyber Sarangay, as well as Manananggal and Shokoy aplenty. So if you like Filipino monsters, if you like monster romances, if you like cute, spicy, sexy stories by Filipino artists, and want to support us in our endeavors, go check out the Pinoy Monster Lover Anthology After Dark Kickstarter. Also, right before I end this promo, if you want to enjoy some bonus episodes of Hainay, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/HainayPod. Anyone who pledges to the At the tier and above, that's a $10 tier, will get entire bonus episodes every month, and anyone who supports from the $3 and $5 tier will get early access to episodes as well as other perks. That's all. Enjoy the show. You are listening to Hainay by Motzie Dapul. Episode 42. Pagsamantalahan.
Get back here, you coward! What? Where are we?
Tunnels. Back when we were building the city, we dug deep.
Right. You literally helped build the city, didn't you?
Workers built this city. Died to build it. You know that memorial on front? Naming all the ways workers died building the great structures of Toronto.
And when did you start caring about that sort of thing?
I've had time to reflect on things. 90 years. My role in all this. I'm curious to know what you think your role is.
Role? I don't have a role. I wanted to stop people from dying senselessly. And I recognized the supernatural element. I knew how to handle that, so I saved someone, and I wanted to save more. That's all.
Admirable of you. No delusions of grandeur. No thoughts of heroism. Simply wanting to help. But what is it that you're doing, entering the den of the beast? What did you seek to accomplish?
Well, I thought I was after their leader, the Benefactor. He seemed connected to every incident. I heard his damn whistle in some places. There were moments where he was described, what we know of him, his cufflinks.
Is that what you're going by?
Well, we'd have more to go on if you helped us put these pieces together.
I am helping. Even after the stunt you pulled at that meeting.
How do you know about that?
sweet girl. I have eyes everywhere. Or do you think the doll doctor was the only one to do with dolls?
The marionettes. Their eyes.
And did you really think the Benefactor's fine cufflinks, his silly little whistle, were his and his alone?
No. Not anymore. But can you blame me? We don't know what you know. We haven't even seen what you've seen. And we're not all immortal.
You've come so far, even half blind, which is why I've invited you down here. I may know more than you, but even I don't have the answers I need. So we're here to learn together. I hope you're not squeamish.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Rise and shine, Mr. Henry. We have a guest.
Master. I can't believe you're... Wait. My body. What? What did you do to me?
His body. It's...
Clockwork, yes. I'd suspected for a while, but I didn't have all the pieces, and I had no reason to act until you got him running like a bat out of hell. Thanks for that.
What's going on?
What
Tell me,
year
what's
is
going
it?
on? What kind of... It's 1987. What the...
Who
It's
is in
2020.
possession of the pocket watch?
That fool journalist, James Callahan. That fool detective,
And what
Michael
is
Don.
your last memory of the Benefactor?
He asked me to attend this meeting on his behalf because he's busy with his project.
What about the other one? In 1987,
I don't...
what was your last memory of the Benefactor? Answer me.
I can't. Oh, that crafty little bastard. He actually killed me. I didn't
Who
think he
killed
had
you?
the stones. Oh, it's you. The little witch who's been hounding us for... how long? Time is... Who else? The goddamned Benefactor.
Why would he kill his right hand?
Because you tried to kill him first. The doll, Lori, your red hand controlled her waking and she was looking for him. You betrayed him. Why?
What incentive do I have to answer you? After all, look at me. I'm already
There's
dead.
worse than this, Mr. Henry. Knowing how meticulously prepared you are for any and all outcomes, I imagine you used his spell of partition, cut a piece of your soul, and hid it in some focus somewhere. Well, do you know what will happen if we kill you here? Kill this body of yours? You'll be trapped, screaming into nothingness, with nobody to hear forever. Your divided soul, wishing for true death, unable to pass on. So tell me, Mr. Henry, is that the fate you desire? You've always been
sir.
a practical sort, though time changes us all. Tell us why you decided to do something as foolish as betray the Benefactor. Perhaps, if If you help us find a way to stop him, we'll find a way to ensure your freedom from this.
I suppose so. When Master Savard first formed his inner circle, I was sceptical. I kept my peace, but the soft-hearted dreamers and bright-eyed optimists did not, to me, constitute the wisest of choices. And yet as time went on, I began to understand the Master's vision, gone further than my own. Even I did not remember his name, but I remember how terribly eager he was. A genius in his own right, fevered and idealistic. He looked to Master Savard as a father, even if I knew he had his own. An enormous family of no renown, one he refused outright to speak of. I was the reason Master Savard even knew who he was. I'll never forget that. He was a no-name even before he shed his name by magic, without the status enjoyed by even the lowest of us in the Ordo. I brought him on because I saw his potential, and Master Savard saw it too, proved himself time and time again. Though back then I never imagined myself serving under him, not until it proved the wisest course, and he proved the most powerful of us all. I remember how he looked to me before, for guidance, for answers. I taught him how to dress, how to act in the presence of nobility and high society, brought him his first fine fitted suit, lent him my cufflinks and let him keep them when they suited him better than me. Strange to think about now how green he once was. I remember when he invited us, all of us, out to shows, jazz performances, dance halls. Him, Mary Ann. Oh, how he adored her, confessed that he loved her, though she could not feel the same of him, given her nature. Love was something he was, in many ways, desperate for, a weakness of his, perhaps his only weakness after Hyde. I believe it was John Isaac who gave him his name. Our benefactor, he would say, when he brought us to these clubs and paid for our drinks. It stayed with him, that name, long after the man died, suddenly quite young. Mary Ann was never the same after that. The benefactor had her ear, and she had his, and there were things they discussed that I and other members weren't privy to, something not even our leader knew. I once tried to pry it out of him, years later, the secrets he and Mary Ann Weeks shared together. But he never spoke of them, not even to me. For the longest time I served under Master Savard, first as his assistant at his company, then as the same in the Ordo. I worked alongside the benefactor and Mary Ann Weeks, and saw the latter as more fit to continue our leader's work, if not for the rigidity of her ideals. She was the first to question Master Savard's choices. In her final days, she disappeared from our company entirely before turning up dead. Such a damn waste. And her secrecy ensured we never found out how or why she died the way she did. In the days after her passing, Master Savard himself began to act outside of my knowledge. His disappearance was sudden, but only because I did not know of his plans until after he executed them, and hundreds of people besides. You stand beside him, so you must not know, noble and good-hearted as you are.
I'm aware of what he is now. You're a clockwork corpse on a slab, who can't even remember what day it is. Keep talking, or you'll be worse.
Well, after that night, there were no more meetings with no Master Savard to call them. I went to his study and found a bit of a storm. Took me time to sort through his documents, some missing, and learned that he was behind the great slum fire. The benefactor came to me for answers and seemed troubled by what he received. He wouldn't, he said, for the master had always espoused fairness, the randomness of our foci. It must have been for good reason, he said, and for he believed wholeheartedly in our leader's ideals. A bright-eyed dreamer even then. I hadn't the heart to tell him that power does not live in idealism, and what was insensible to him seemed a logical outcome to me. Master Savard was wise, I know, and a wise man will take what opportunities he can. What never made sense to me was his disappearance. To have banked such immense power, then made off with it like a thief in the night, like Marianne's strange and sudden passing, it was a mystery that plagued me for years. The wisest people I knew, laden with great power, gone. I never ever entertained the idea that Master Savard had been killed. He was much too powerful, more so after the fire in the ward. But magic is fickle, as the long winter has taught us, so I often wondered if he simply went mad with the power he took in. I suppose that until the benefactor's war with the puppet master, until he took in the power of hundreds of souls and remained clear-minded, that was when I began to believe him gone. In my mind, the benefactor could not possibly match Savard for power, at least at the time. But as I watched and assisted him in his corralling of our unruly fellows, killing those who stepped out of line, at least in his eyes, I began to truly believe. This fevered, bright-eyed idealist was capable of great work, even in spite of his ideals. Or perhaps in some strange harmony with them. I was his closest confidant, his trusted right hand. I often knew what he wanted even before he gave the order, and I knew that he was lonely after Marianne. And I knew, even in his position, far above mine after Hyde, that he still looked to me with some admiration. The first person who gave him a chance to prove himself. The first, he said, to give him such a fine gift as his tailored suit, his leather shoes, perfectly shined, the cufflinks at his wrists. He protected me, not simply out of a sense of obligation, of simple pragmatism which characterized my relationship with Master Savard. He protected me because he cared about me. So I gave him another gift, one that would fit him as well as the last. I gave him a lover. Cufflinks in a velvet box like the first time. A kiss on the hand, the neck, a whispered promise. It was easy enough. As I said, it was his only weakness. I let him love me so that he might trust me, unconditionally. I became more to him than any other, the most powerful man in the world, and he would fall to his knees for me and lay his head on my lap as I ran my fingers through his hair.
You used him.
No more than I was. Being used, being useful, is no terrible thing if you get something good out of it. And I was good. I was always careful of how I used this newfound privilege. I had his ear in all things, and a careful eye trained on those we called allies, who were just as much our most dangerous enemies, if they turned on our benefactor or believed themselves stronger than he. I would often be the one who told him of knives in the dark, of others plotting against him. He was fastidious. He always wanted to confirm things for himself, and every time I was proven correct. He trusted me more and more, enough to allow me to act in his stead, borrow his spell, dressed in the clothes I gifted him, and collected foci as or after they activated, or strike fear in those who thought they could circumvent his notice, allow him to be in two places at once. It was easy enough a role to play. especially when one becomes something of a legend among men, both ordinary and immortal. Even just the sound of his favourite nursery song made them afraid. Or lured those hunting him in, like our fellow elders turned enemies, like you, when you began poking your nose into our business. Didn't affect your friend, though, I suppose. Mary Ann's foci have some utility, even after they've all been used up.
You lured me there, put that focus on that ghost.
It was an experiment, one of many conducted to test the malleability of the veil and the places it had worn thin. I may not be like Mary Ann or our benefactor, or even the mouse, Vanessa Bartolotti, but I had a vested interest in learning about it, after what an entire tear in the fabric of reality did for our benefactor. The power it gave him, even for all that it took away.
And what did it take away? So he trusted you. Left you. Why did he kill you?
I was the one he asked to look into the machine that gave him his godlike power. It was familiar to me in some ways. I remembered Master Zavar's love of the craft of clockwork and the ideas he sometimes shared with me. But we could never power it, not once, not since the war. I could not replicate the process that made the benefactor a god, and so I was forever beholden to his will, and his alone. And if he said no, well, what could I do about it? So again I took a different approach. I captured the lingering memory of a ghostly shade, the vicious, enraged wild animal of a girl that was so dear to the puppet master, nothing but a ghost haunting the place where she had been murdered. I realized as I spoke to what power she possessed, the power of natural magic that none of us elders could ever grasp nor control. It would take 100 foci to match that power. Or, I thought, the lives of a few elders. Poor Clifford. He was so afraid when I began the rumour that he meant to act against our leader. A self-fulfilling prophecy on his part, for it was then that he broke the benefactor's rule and meant to sacrifice an innocent woman for his experiment. He was dispatched by the fool journalist when his terror made him desperate. Of a benefactor, I would ask for active foci, the power from the elders that he collected, the soul-bound for the machine. I tested it with foci with souls trapped within, 1, 2, 5 at once, even a dozen. It never worked. Could not solve the riddle of Savard's machine. Not until the little girl told me what I needed to know. She kept saying, "You aren't special enough." I didn't realize what she meant until I made her a promise that satisfied her twisted little heart. That she could kill the faceless one, as she called him. That I could lead him into her trap, because he trusted me. He trusted me when I spoke to him of knives in the dark. I told him so much, it didn't occur to him how much I was keeping from him.
Clearly, your trap didn't work. What did he do when he found you out?
I don't...
Give me a moment.
What are you doing?
There's a spell here. Help me release it.
How do I...
Just take my hand. I didn't take you for the squeamish type.
I don't know how he learned, but I remember. The journalist. He discovered my traps, investigated them thoroughly, set off the traps that I had to reset, traps I was surprised he even survived. I encountered him for the first time, face to face, at the necropolis, at the grave that belonged to our friend from the old days, William Savard the Younger. It was only then that I saw our nuisance journalist use a tool, one that I recognized from long ago. Something that explained how he survived so many supernatural encounters, so many elders, my traps, how he took down Clifford Bolden, a human that seemed perfectly ordinary from the outside. It was a pocket watch, one that I remembered from Savard's notes when he disappeared. It was only a concept, but he believed that he could make the most powerful focus in the world and house hundreds of feared deaths in one vessel. I didn't know he succeeded. It was one of many plans that he had that never came to fruition, at least that I knew of. It all made sense then. I could not feel it, but I could see with my own eyes how much magic he used, as though he were himself an elder, as though it came naturally to him. It would be useful to have that tool. Perhaps it was the answer to powering the machine. So I tried to take it from him. He fought back, so I had to kill him, of course. I almost did. But then, behind me, a young man. The journalist called him Peter. I believe it was a friend of his or a follower of some kind. A photographer at his paper, one I'd observed in passing. He looked devastated, but not at the journalist. At me. It only hit me then that it was too late. He was always very good at glamour spells, my benefactor. My last memory was looking up at him from the ground before he picked my head up. He'd taken it clean off my neck. He didn't even hesitate. Kissed my bloodied lips and said, "I gave you so many chances and you squandered them all." Then he looked to the journalist and told him in that infuriatingly kind tone to leave Toronto, or else he would kill everyone he loved, just like this. It was a lie, of course. He doesn't kill the innocent. I don't know what happened after that. It was like nothing changed. My mind was stitched together, cutting away the pieces of that night, or sealing them away. Well into the 90s and the new millennium, my traps remained intact, and my plans the same. Laurie of Hyde was undisturbed for so long. I did not dare push him, fearing he would suspect me, not knowing that ship had sailed long ago. I suppose he did to me what the puppet master and their daughter did to the people of Hyde, turned me into this.
Wait. You said you set multiple traps. Why do that? Did you just hope he'd stumble onto one of them one day? And what about that thing under the necropolis? There's something you're not telling us.
He wanted to repeat my greatest sin. It took me years to discover the tunnels that led to his work. Machines, so much like mine, but unfamiliar to me. And circles, and symbols, and spells to trigger them. Many of them across Toronto, like planted charges to demolish a condemned building. I knew that it would repeat the process nonetheless, killing hundreds, siphoning their souls through a single vessel, and giving him power akin to the Benefactor, akin to
the pocket watch.
But on a much larger scale, from the necropolis all the way to Hyde Park. It's why he made so many traps, to hide these away from prying eyes, and he used the Benefactor's trust to turn him away from finding him out. The Benefactor does not kill the innocent.
Yeah, I've heard that line before.
What will you do to me?
If we find his foci, I can help him pass on peacefully.
He would do that for him, even after learning what he intended to do to the city, to the people living in it? Thousands, tens of thousands, living in downtown alone.
I'm not doing it for him.
Fine. Fine. But he can still be useful, if nothing else. Count your lucky stars, Mr. Henry, that your enemy is so noble and good-hearted. Stay here. I need to fetch some tools.
Did you ever really love him? That young man?
Even if I did, what would that have changed? I know he loved me more than anyone, for so very long, and yet he still killed me in the end. You're a naive fool if you think love will make a difference, when you realize the one you love most becomes your greatest threat.
You're listening to Hainay by Motzie Dapul. Hey everyone, it's Motzie. There's nothing much to say that hasn't already been said. Israel continues to commit multiple massacres across Palestine. Recently, the ICJ, or International Court of Justice from the UN, has ruled that Israel's occupation of Palestine is unlawful and tantamount to apartheid. While this does not stop or undo Israel's genocide of Palestine, it states a fact that we already know, that Israel is an apartheid state, and that its land-grabbing and mass murder of Palestinians is a threat to human rights all over the world. This was an opinion cited at The Hague from a top UN court. If you'll remember, Israeli forces have murdered members of the UN and destroyed their facilities in Palestine, including bombing a UN school where civilians were sheltering. Israel is also currently bombing Yemen and Lebanon. There is no doubting that Israel is continuously committing genocide, and world nations, largely Western nations, are allowing it to happen, allowing Israel to freely kill medical workers and aid workers of all kinds. Gazan children continue to be slaughtered by Israeli forces. But more people, more civilians of the world, stand with Palestine more than ever before. They cannot ignore the outcry, as long as the pressure continues. And it will not stop until Palestine is free from the Israeli apartheid. Kalayaan para sa Palestina. Ingat. Hey everyone, it's Motzie again. I'm taking over the credits because Reg is currently on break, studying for a big medical test whose name I keep forgetting. I'm so sorry, Reg. But this will help her become a full-fledged doctor, so good luck, Reg. Hainay is a podcast produced by myself, Motzie Dapul, and Reg Helly, and edited by Yoy Halago and Alisa Jimenez. And licensed under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 4.0 International License. Today's episode was written by me, Motzie Dapul, and I also play the role of Mari Datuin. The role of Cornelius was played by Ivan Dapul, and the role of Richard Henry was played by Tom Pilcher. We'd like to thank the following patrons for continuing to support Hainay. Our co-producer, Jesse Goodsell, Becca Terrier, Megan, Victoria Goodwin, Faye Fungi, Amelia Brownstein, Anna, Astra Kim, Diana Cause, Emma Heilig, Evie Smith, Malaya Light, Melissa, Pablo Neurotic, and Sooks. If you'd like to support the show, we're on Patreon at patreon.com/HainayPod, that's HINAYPOD, and on Ko-fi, that's ko-fi.com/HainayPod. We've got perks, we've got prizes, and you'll help us continue to be sustainable. And keep making the show you love. You can also follow us on our socials. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram. At HainayPod, that's HINAYPOD. And as always, thank you, we love you, and hanggang sa muli.